Greetings to our international viewers, and thank you for joining us once again for our daily English news edition. As usual, I'm Daniel Cook, your host, Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. right here on Aura News for a translated version of today's top news stories. Experts from the Democratic Party, the Socialist Party, and the international bodies have begun to reflect on the opinion of the Venice Commission on the justice reform, which was noticeably different from the draft presented by the ad hoc commission. The U.S. Ambassador Donald Liu highlighted the need for change and responded to those who reject the reform, saying that they only do so because they wish to be able to purchase justice. The U.S. diplomat spoke today in a meeting on human rights in the framework of the justice reform. He said, "Corruption in the justice system not only allows the politicians and judges to fill their pockets, but also destroys the lives of honest citizens. In a corrupt system, women are the first victims. The rich buy their own justice, while the poor suffer the most from corruption." The process of the justice reform has begun. It is important that the Albanian citizens have the opportunity to discuss this vital reform. The judicial reform offers a mechanism to stop the corrupt judges and prosecutors. This reform gives Albania the chance to rid itself of corruption and to return the trust of the citizens in the justice system. One of the reasons we are so interested in the justice reform is the history of a certain Albanian woman who was beaten by her husband and asked for justice, but only found more suffering. The court ruled in favor of the husband, a man previously convicted of violence, and took 2 of her 3 children away from her. Why would a judge rule in favor of such a person? Corruption is the reason, said Ambassador Liu. Present at the meeting, the Democratic MP Majlinda Bregu asked for a comprehensive reformation of the justice system in support of women's rights. "There is a high level of gender-based violence," she said, "which is a crime that needs to be punished. The judicial system needs to be reformatted." The Venice Commission experts will arrive in Tirana in December and discuss the reform with the Albanian experts. The Democratic Party has given assurance that it will approve the justice reform as long as the final draft involves all the recommendations of the Venice Commission. The Democratic MP Edward Halimi rejected the proposals of the Socialist Party, making the following comment: "If the draft reviews the elements that aim to control the justice system, we will have a consensual draft just like the decriminalization law." When asked about a reduction of the number of new institutions, which is predicted by the experts of the ad hoc commission, he had this to say: "The arrival of the Venice Commission will provide a solution to this concern, which is worrying for all of us. The citizens are not interested in having a justice system that is controlled by politics," said Mr. Halimi. He commented on the mandate of the Prosecutor General, saying that it cannot be interrupted without legal reason. The Socialist Party claims that the Democratic request to establish a technical government is really intended to block the judicial reform. The chairmen of both the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court were unified today in their position that the new property law is complex and contradictory. According to them, complexity has caused problems in the treatment of the property issue for more than 2 decades. Presenting a document containing 26 decisions regarding the property issue, the 2 senior officials said that it will assist the courts and lawmakers in making rulings on ownership disputes. A review of the Constitutional Court decisions on the property issue over the past 22 years is all that is needed to demonstrate the complexity of the issue. In 22 years, the court reviewed 26 rulings on the constitutionality of normative acts in connection with property rights. The Supreme Court president says that the history of the court very clearly shows the contradictory nature of the property issue, since the legislation has been changed more than annually. The Albanian legislation is highly controversial and has changed repeatedly from year to year, he said. This is especially true in 2003 to 2004. The Vice Minister of Justice, Arben Isaray, said that the judiciary needs to stay away from political influence, implying that political forces have hijacked the property issue for the last 25 years. Invited to be a guest on Tonight ili Vetare, the state lawyer Alma Hitska spoke about the new property law. According to her, the new law provides a fair solution to the property issues in Albania. She reconfirmed that the Ministerial Committee of the European Union has also supported the law and declared that the law is a condition for Albania's integration. The state lawyer institution has only 4 lawyers who provide expert advice on the contracts the state signs. Itzka did not deny that several cases may have been lost because of the agreements of the lawyers that the lawyers have reached. She said, "We offer advice only on issues that we consider to be important. We are making efforts to strengthen our office." When asked whether the state loses some cases because of the lawyer's inability or because of the silent agreements, she replied, "It is because of all of these reasons together. It would be impossible for the state to win all of the court cases. I do not deny what you say." The concession for the national road was not finalized once again, and the Ministry of Transport announced the reason today. According to the ministry, the incoming bids from the companies were double what the ministry had planned to pay, and the ministry considered them to be contrary to the public interest. The Secretary General of the Ministry of Transport declared that the situation will be analyzed and a decision will be reached. He said, "Given these circumstances, the Commission decided to reject all of the offers, consider them to be invalid, and cancel the procedure. We are evaluating whether we will reopen the same procedure or whether we will find a model for attracting private investment." The Albanian Road Authority has been committed to maintaining the road since the winter season began, said the Ministry Secretary General. After a great deal of negotiations, the government has reached an agreement with the company that holds the concession for Mother Teresa Airport to allow other airports to operate in Albania. The Minister of Economy, Ahmetaj, announced the agreement today during a meeting with the representatives of the tourism industry, in which they discussed the progress of tourism in 2015 and expectations for 2016. The minister apologized for failing to reduce the VAT on tourism so far, but he promised them that it will be done soon. According to the Bank of Albania, the number of tourists during the first 6 months of 2015 increased by 17%, and expectations for next year are even more positive. The mayor of Tirana, Erion Veliaj, has responded to a request from the Association of Public Transport to increase the price of city bus tickets to 70 lek. In a media statement today, Mayor Veliaj declared that the price will never be increased as long as he is the mayor of Tirana. He expressed that he is open to holding a meeting with the Association of Transport, but that he will not consider raising the price of the bus ride. He said, "I do not respond to blackmail, but I am willing to sit and talk. Tomorrow, I welcome them to hold a discussion. The argument that the prices in other countries are higher than in ours is not a convincing one. I want to give assurance to the Tirana citizens that the absurd request to make the price 70 lek will not be granted. This is non-negotiable as long as the people do not receive improved service. Before speaking about this, we want to hear whether they agree to use an electronic ticket system and agree to improve the services they offer," said Mr. Veliaj. Instat is reporting an annual growth of 7.8% in retail sales in the third quarter of this year, which is mainly coming from the increased sales in small shops. The category of foods, beverages, and tobacco has had the most impact, with 3.7% of the total growth. But rather than real growth, this is merely an indicator of the operation against informality. Since September 1st, the government's initiative has been focused largely on small shops, which used to sell products off the books without issuing receipts. The increase in volume of sales in retail trade is expected to continue in the fourth quarter as a side effect of formalizing the economy. Thank you for joining us again for our daily English edition, and please tune in again at the same time tomorrow. Thanks, and have a great night.